Imagine this. You leave work late at night, take the same quiet road home you've walked 100 times before, and vanish into the dark, never to be seen again. No witnesses, no struggle, not even a body, just silence. That's exactly what happened to a young woman in 1994. And the terrifying part? She wasn't the first. For decades, people have disappeared on the same stretch of road, families torn apart, investigators baffled, and rumors of something far darker lurking in the shadows. Tonight, we're going to step into one of the most chilling unsolved mysteries you've probably never heard of. The road that seems to swallow people whole. There are stories that live in the cracks of history, whispered from one frightened soul to another. They are the kind of stories that refuse to die, because no one ever found the answers that could bury them. Tonight, I want to take you into one of those stories. A chilling, unsolved mystery that has haunted families, baffled investigators, and left behind nothing but silence and shadows. It begins in a quiet, rural town, the kind of place where doors are left unlocked and neighbors know each other by name. In 1994, on a late autumn evening, a young woman named Elena Cruz left her part-time shift at a roadside diner just after 9:30 p.m. She smiled at her co-workers, slung her worn leather bag over her shoulder, and stepped into the cool night air. That was the last confirmed time anyone ever saw her alive. Her route home was simple, a straight stretch of country road, no more than a 20-minute walk. Locals often said the road had a strange stillness at night. No cars, no sounds, just the occasional rustle of wind through the trees. Elena's friends would later say she didn't like walking it alone, but she couldn't afford a car, and her family's farmhouse sat right at the end of that road. When her parents woke the next morning and found her bed untouched, panic set in. They assumed maybe she had stayed with a friend, but after a few calls, the truth became clear. Elena never came home. Her mother, holding the phone in shaking hands, whispered the words that would forever change the town. She's missing. Police launched a search immediately. Volunteers lined up with flashlights, combing through ditches and wooded areas along the roadside. For days, hundreds of people walked that stretch of pavement, calling her name. Dogs picked up a trail that mysteriously ended halfway down the road, as though Elena had simply evaporated into the night. No footprints, no struggle, no discarded belongings. What they did find, though, was something strange. Near the spot where the dogs lost her scent, an old wooden fence post bore deep scratches, the kind that didn't look like they came from an animal. Some swore they looked like fingernail marks. Desperate and frantic, but with no evidence to prove anything, it was filed away as an odd detail. Weeks turned into months. Rumors spread. Whispers of a pickup truck seen idling on the road that night, of strange lights glowing in the woods, even of a faceless figure known in local folklore as La Sombra, the shadow said to follow lone travelers. None of it could be confirmed, and Elena Cruz was never found. Her case remains unsolved, but what haunts investigators to this day is the silence. No trace of her belongings, no phone calls, no body. Just a young woman who stepped off work one night and disappeared into thin air. But the more you dig into Elena's story, the darker it becomes, because hers wasn't the first disappearance on that lonely road. Elena Cruz's disappearance shook the small town, but it didn't take long before locals began connecting dots that outsiders would have dismissed as superstition. That lonely stretch of pavement where her trail vanished wasn't just any road. It had a reputation. One that most families avoided talking about openly, almost as if speaking its name out loud could summon something unwanted. The road was called Hollow Creek Road, a narrow ribbon of cracked asphalt that cut through dense woods and swampy ground. Locals had given it another name, whispered to children as a warning, La Carretera del Diablo, the Devil's Road. They said the ground there was cursed, that people who wandered it after dark were never the same. At first, the stories sounded like harmless folklore, but then old records surfaced. Elena, it turned out, wasn't the first person to vanish there. She was just the most recent. In 1978, a 42-year-old mechanic named Luis Herrera was driving home late from a job. His truck was found the next morning parked neatly on the roadside. Keys still in the ignition, headlights still glowing, engine running. But Luis was gone. The driver's door hung wide open, and his work boots sat neatly on the asphalt as if he had stepped out and simply dissolved. Police scoured the woods for weeks. No trace was ever found. Go back further to 1961, and you'll find the chilling case of 3 teenage boys who set out to camp near Hollow Creek. Their tents were discovered days later, still pitched by the stream, with food half-cooked on a rusting fire grate. One boy's jacket was draped over a log, another's shoes neatly placed by the riverbank. But the boys? Gone. Every search came up empty. Parents refused to let their children camp there again, and for decades the story passed like a scar from one generation to the next. And it didn't end there. Hunters spoke of finding animal carcasses arranged in strange patterns near the road. Drivers swore they'd seen figures standing at the tree line, tall and unmoving, vanishing the moment headlights swept over them. Some insisted it was the work of a human predator, a drifter or serial killer using the isolation to hunt victims. But the eerie consistency of the vanishings left others uneasy. Why were cars, tents, belongings, even food left behind as if people had no time to react? Why were there no signs of struggle, no screams, no blood? What made the disappearances even more unsettling was the timeline. Every single one occurred in the liminal space between dusk and midnight, as though whatever haunted Hollow Creek Road only stirred when the sky fell dark. By the time Elena vanished in 1994, people in town stopped calling it coincidence. They locked their doors earlier, warned their teenagers not to walk home after sunset, and some even went as far as refusing to drive that stretch at night, taking the long way around no matter how much time it cost them. But the chilling question that lingered was this: if something or someone was taking people from Hollow Creek Road, where were the victims going? Because in every case, not a single body had ever been recovered. The longer Elena's case stayed cold, the more people began stepping forward with things they had seen, or heard, or felt on Hollow Creek Road. At first, investigators dismissed most of it as frightened townsfolk exaggerating, but some of the accounts were hard to ignore. One of the earliest came from a truck driver named Martin Vega. He claimed that about a week before Elena vanished, he was hauling supplies late at night when he spotted something unusual. On a long, empty stretch of road, he saw what looked like a young woman standing by the tree line, her dress pale and fluttering in the breeze. Thinking she might be in trouble, Martin slowed his truck and called out. The figure didn't move. He turned his headlights directly toward her, and in that instant, she was gone. No sound of footsteps, no flash of movement, just empty woods. Martin swore he had stopped and searched with a flashlight, but the only thing he found was silence and the smell of damp earth. Then there was Ana Morales, a high school student who lived nearby. She admitted to sneaking out one night with friends to prove they weren't scared of the Devil's Road. They parked at the roadside and sat on the hood of a car, laughing, waiting for something spooky to happen. For a while nothing did. Then Ana heard it, faint at first, like the wind carrying words. A woman's voice whispering her name. She laughed nervously, but the voice grew clearer, closer, until she swore she could feel warm breath against her ear. Terrified, Ana jumped back into the car, and as her friends followed, they all heard it together. A low, guttural cry echoing from the trees. Something not quite human, not quite animal. They sped off without looking back, and perhaps the most disturbing came from Deputy Ramirez, one of the officers assigned to Elena's case. During a late-night patrol along Hollow Creek, his cruiser radio suddenly cut out with static. As he adjusted the dial, he heard something that made his blood run cold. Through the static came a faint female voice repeating the same words. "Help me. I'm here." Ramirez pulled over immediately, stepping out into the pitch-dark road, scanning the woods with his flashlight. He called out, convinced it was someone in distress. But there was nothing. No footprints, no movement, only the radio hissing in his car, still repeating that same plea. "Help me. I'm here." He never spoke about it publicly, but in private he admitted he believed it was Elena. The police files filled with testimony like this, but none of it was usable in court. Witness accounts were unreliable. Paranormal claims didn't belong in official reports. Still, those who lived near Hollow Creek didn't need a file to convince them. They already knew. Something was wrong with that road, and the strangest part, these sightings and voices weren't new. They went back decades, long before Elena, long before anyone living could remember. When Elena's case landed on the desks of county investigators, they expected the usual: interviews, suspects, evidence trails. But Hollow Creek didn't play by normal rules. The deeper they dug, the more the ground seemed to swallow the truth. Detective Laura Mendez, one of the lead investigators, described the case years later as like chasing smoke with bare hands. The first step was obvious: track Elena's last movements. She had clocked out of the diner at 9:32 p.m. Security footage from a nearby gas station caught her passing by on foot a few minutes later. After that, nothing. It was as if she walked into a void. Police combed through every detail of her life. Friends, co-workers, boyfriends, even family members. No one had motive. No one gained from her disappearance, and everyone had airtight alibis. The most logical theory should have been abduction. But then, where was the evidence? No tire tracks, no signs of a struggle, no calls demanding ransom. What made things worse was how familiar this was. Investigators unearthed the cold files of Luis Herrera in 1978 and the three boys in 1961. Side by side, the cases looked eerily similar. Belongings left behind, a timeline that abruptly ended, and the same haunting location. It wasn't just Elena, it was a pattern. At one point, the department even brought in specialized dogs trained to locate human remains. They scoured every inch of the woods surrounding Hollow Creek. The dogs caught scents multiple times, growling and pulling handlers toward certain areas, only for the trail to end abruptly in clearings of dead leaves. No bodies, no bones, just silence. There were darker theories, too. Some whispered about a cult operating in the woods, a group rumored to meet in abandoned barns and perform rituals by candlelight. An anonymous tip claimed Elena had been taken as part of a sacrifice, her spirit bound to the land forever. Detectives followed the lead, but by the time they searched the barns, there was nothing but ashes and broken glass. Others leaned toward the supernatural. One folklorist, digging through archives, uncovered stories from the late 1800s. Farmers back then spoke of a shadow man who appeared on Hollow Creek Road, a tall figure with no face who lured travelers away. Some described him as a phantom hitchhiker, others as something worse, a thing that could mimic voices of loved ones, calling people deeper into the woods until they were never seen again. Detectives didn't know what to believe. Science demanded logic, but the evidence didn't fit any. The town wanted answers, families demanded closure, and the media swarmed. Yet every press conference ended the same. The investigation is ongoing. No further details at this time. Behind closed doors, though, Mendez admitted to her partner that the case was going nowhere. "It feels," she said, "like the road itself is hiding her." By then, Hollow Creek wasn't just a crime scene. It was a legend, a place people avoided at all costs. But the mystery wasn't done, because even after Elena, people kept disappearing. By the time the 2000s rolled around, Hollow Creek had become more than a stretch of forgotten asphalt. It was a wound in the town's memory, a place parents warned their children about with trembling voices. People moved away rather than live near it. Houses closest to the road went unsold for years, their windows gathering dust, their porches sinking into the ground, but even distance couldn't erase it. The disappearances didn't stop. In 2003, a college student named Daniel Ortiz went missing while driving home after visiting friends. His car was discovered with the driver's side door open, his phone still on the passenger seat. In 2009, an elderly man walking his dog vanished. The leash was found tangled around a fence post, but the dog, terrified, whimpering, was discovered days later hiding under a porch miles away. Each case carried the same marks. No struggle, no evidence, no explanation. The town held vigils. Priests blessed the roadside. Paranormal groups traveled from out of state with their equipment, claiming to record chilling EVPs, disembodied voices whispering, "Leave or stay." One team swore they captured a shadowy figure crossing their infrared cameras, though skeptics dismissed it as a trick of the light. Detective Mendez retired without solving the case. She admitted in her final interview that Hollow Creek haunted her dreams. "It's like the road is alive," she said quietly, "and it takes who it wants." Today, Hollow Creek Road is blocked by rusted barricades. No one is supposed to drive down it, but thrill seekers still sneak past at night, drawn by the lure of the unknown. Some come back shaken, pale as ghosts, swearing they heard footsteps behind them though the road was empty. Others claim they saw Elena herself, standing in the ditch, eyes wide and hollow, lips moving in silence as if trying to speak. And yet, not a single body has ever been found. Not Elena, not Luis, not the 3 boys, not Daniel, not the old man. Nothing. That's what makes this mystery so terrifying. Murders leave clues. Accidents leave remains. But Hollow Creek leaves nothing. Just vanished lives, broken families, and questions that echo louder with each passing year. What happened to them? Were they victims of a clever predator who knew how to erase every trace? Did they fall prey to something darker, something no investigation could ever put into words? Or is there truly something cursed about that stretch of road, something waiting in the shadows, patient and hungry? No one knows, and maybe no one ever will. What we do know is this. If you ever find yourself on a deserted back road at night and the world goes suddenly, impossibly silent, don't stop. Don't listen to the voices calling your name. And whatever you do, never set foot on Hollow Creek Road, because some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. And that's the nightmare of Hollow Creek Road. A place where lives vanish without reason, where families are left with only questions, and where silence itself feels like a predator. No evidence, no bodies, no answers. Just the echo of footsteps that never come back. Maybe one day the truth will be uncovered. Maybe. But until then, the mystery remains waiting in the dark. So tell me, if you were driving down that road alone at night and you heard a voice whisper your name from the trees, would you stop? Or would you keep going, praying you'd make it to the other side? Because some roads are not meant to be traveled.